What's up guys, it's Erratic here, and today I want to talk to you about my grievances with PvP and go over some solutions that I think could possibly fix some of the different things that are wrong with PvP in my eyes. Before we get started, I kind of want to go over my background just so you know where I'm coming from. I started PvPing in Shadowlands as a warrior. I pretty much just did twos all throughout Shadowlands, and then Dragonflight was the first time I really decided I wanted to push threes, try to get Gladiator, and I switched to mostly healing at that point. I struggled all throughout Dragonflight trying to get it. I got pretty close in season 4. You know, I got better throughout the seasons, and I was just absolutely sure that when the War Within came out, season 1 was going to be inflated and I was going to be able to get the Gladiator, and it still is possible this season, but it's felt a little bit harder than I kind of expected, with the first season of an expansion usually being the most inflated. I'm currently a little over 2400 in solo shuffle on my preservation, and then I'm about 2277 in threes. That being said, I kind of want to go over what I see as some of the main issues with World of Warcraft PvP right now. One of the most prominent issues in my eyes is going to be the stagnant meta. We'll usually get these crazy changes once every 2 months, and then you kind of just sit in that meta for, you know, until the next big set of changes comes out. I think most other PvP competitive games have much more frequent tuning, and I think World of Warcraft would benefit greatly from that. It kind of leads into my next point, that because you're sitting in those metas for 2 months at a time, people just switch to alts. I don't want to say it's too easy to switch to alts and just play the flavor of the month, but if you had frequent class tuning, I think you would be less incentivized to just hop on your alt, because you know you're going to perform, you know, much better without, you know, knowing the class as well. And I think that's kind of a huge issue with PvP, is it's so important to be running the meta. I think that's true in other games, but again, I think there's a lot of value in mastering your class, and I don't think you're really rewarded for that in World of Warcraft right now. That being said, one of the other big issues I think World of Warcraft suffer from right now is that we're fragmented across like 6 different versions of the game. You've got classic hardcore, you've got classic anniversary realms, you've got a season of discovery, you've got retail. We're gonna have Plunderstorm coming up soon, which I'm actually super excited for, but it's just, it fragments the player base, and PvP was already the lowest player base. I don't really know that there's anything that can be done about this, but it's definitely contributing to specifically like the threes ladder feeling pretty bad right now. I think LFG is extremely hard to use. I think there's people with experience from previous seasons with huge egos, and you can't get invited to groups, and I'm not really complaining. I don't have too much of an issue because I'm a healer in LFG, but I think for, you know, especially for DPS players, they probably can't get any queues, and even when you do get a queue, like I said, there's people with huge egos who will, you know, call you trash after one loss and leave the group, and so you're stuck kind of sitting in LFG trying to find a new group for the next set of queues that's probably going to have the same thing happen. Threes has easily the coolest reward probably in the game, in my opinion, and I think the Gladiator mount is like once you initially go for it, it just seems like a super unobtainable goal for most people. I know there's a lot of people who, you know, get it every season and they're like, this is the easiest thing ever, but they've also got connections and the skill level to, you know, just pump it out every season. I'm not saying it should be easy by any means. It should be a prestigious reward, but I think when people, you know, put in an honest attempt for it, it can be very discouraging, because it feels like you need the network and you need the experience. It's like, how do I get experience to get the job? Well, you have to have experience. Well, how do I get the job? It's that kind of thing. I think DPS queues in solo shuffle are extremely long, and it's crazy because you could go in LFG and look for twos or threes, but most people would still prefer to sit in those queues. I don't know how they do it. I switched to healer at the start of Dragonflight because of solo shuffle queues. I wanted to just play the game, and I've really fallen in love with healing, but I don't think most people want to do that because of how hard healing feels, especially at first. I think healers are punished a little bit. Not punished. I think healer MMR feels bad. I think it's like quite a bit lower than DPS MMR, especially in solo shuffle, and I think you also get punished when you know, go 3 and 3 in a lobby, which in my opinion would be considered a win as a healer, especially when there's a 0.6 DPS or a 6.0 DPS. I could see the argument that 3 and 3 is a tie, but like a lot of times you'll lose MMR just because the other healer was lower MMR, and there's not really a skill difference there. A lot of the time it's just there was some DPS that was either doing so much you couldn't really make a difference, or doing so little you couldn't make a difference. That being said, I've thought a little bit about this, and I'm sure there's other suggestions as well, but here's some of my suggestions that I think would help the PvP community drastically. My biggest like suggestion or solution to the problem is adding bots to the lower lobbies for all brackets. I don't really think BG Blitz probably needs it, but like 3s, 2s, and Solo Shuffle I think could benefit from bots to help with queue times and to help people just play the game. I think especially in like for new accounts to the game, like if you look at your honor level and you're honor level 1 and you're queuing 3s or Solo Shuffle for the first time, I 100% think you could put bots in those lobbies. There obviously should be a cutoff for bots, you know, maybe like 1200, 1400 or something like that. But I think that would help the game feel a lot more approachable to lower experienced players, because, you know, going into placement games and facing someone on their alt who, you know, is multiple seasons of, you know, duelist or elite or whatever can feel so bad and feel so discouraging. I think most other ranked games or, you know, just competitive PvP games have this. You know, I want to say like Apex has it, Fortnite has it. I think I've seen a post that even like one of the biggest game that a lot of WoW PvPers have flocked to is Marvel Rivals, and I've even heard that they have bots in certain lobbies after so many losses. And I think WoW could really benefit from that. And, you know, we've seen it in the Arathi Basin Brawl, what is it, Comp Stomp. I don't think they'd have to be crazy good bots. I could see the argument of like, you know, being frustrated with a win or a loss because of the bot on your team. I still think the benefit would outweigh having to queue against, you know, players with much higher XP just at lower ratings. I mentioned regular class tuning as being one of the biggest issues with WoW PvP, and yeah, that's going to be one of my solutions. I think we need weekly or bi-weekly class tuning that significantly shakes up the meta every time. I don't know that PvP will ever get the resources to do that, because obviously you want meaningful changes and you don't want to just be making changes to make changes. But I don't think the season should feel the same for 2 months at a time, and I don't think that you should see class notes and immediately be like, okay, well, I got to start leveling up my alt, or I got to start playing my alt, even though I want to play my main because the alt is so much stronger. Kind of on that same note, I think there should be some sort of incentivization for playing a main class or, you know, spec. I don't know exactly what that would look like. The thoughts off the top of my head would be some sort of battle pass system where the more games you queue in a week, the faster you would earn currency, maybe to buy transmogs that are only obtainable through this system. Something like that. You know, extra conquest, extra honor isn't going to cut it. I do think gold could be a good incentivization, but I kind of don't think that Blizzard is wanting to go that route. So I don't think that's realistic, but I do think that, you know, PvP in general would benefit from some sort of battle pass system that allows you to get recolors of past transmog, recolors of mounts, that kind of thing. And I think both playing a main spec and then playing like maybe a healer and Solo Shuffle could give you bonuses for that system to help incentivize that. I would love to see some sort of solo queue or duo queue for the 2s and 3 system. I think that either putting you with a bot or with like another, like just being able to queue and have another player be linked with you for the next 2s or 3s game would be huge. I think it would obviously probably keep you at a lower rating just because there's not the coordination, you wouldn't have the comp. But I think if people wanted to queue that way, that should 100% be an option. I think that would help the entire ladder feel better because there would be more games at the lower end, which would inflate the entire ladder. And that's, you know, my thought of how it would work. But yeah, I think Solo Shuffle, I genuinely enjoy Solo Shuffle. I think it's a great mode, but it's hurt the 2s and 3s ladder so bad that I would love to see some sort of solo queue option outside of the LFG for the ladder. One of the things that I think felt best in the, you know, past couple seasons that I've played is the difference between season 3 and season 4. It doesn't seem like there was an MMR reset between those 2 seasons. And that was honestly the best the game has felt in a long while, in my opinion. I would love to see for each expansion there just not be any MMR reset between the seasons and inflation to continue to grow, because generally speaking, as an expansion goes on, less people play it. So I think that having higher inflation would help with the population issues, and it could actually help retain players over the course of an expansion instead of everyone trying to log on for the first season because it's supposedly the most inflated, and then as the population of the game just goes down over time naturally, that inflation would kind of compensate for that and maybe even make it easier to get the goals in later seasons or something like that. And the last suggestion I would have is for solo shuffle. I think healers need all the help they can get in that mode, and I think there should just be, you know, some sort of calculation in the algorithm where there's just not a loss of MMR when you go 3 and 3 as a healer. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but you know, going 3 and 3 as a healer in solo shuffle usually feels like a win. It doesn't feel like you tied the other healer. It feels like, you know, you did the best you could, and there's usually, you know, someone in the lobby who was doing so well or so bad that there was nothing you can do about it. And to be punished just because the matchmaking system put you in with a healer who was lower MMR than you, just because that was the luck of the draw, it feels really bad. I will say it does feel good when you get, you know, matched with the healer who's higher MMR and you gain rating off of that, but I would rather see both healers not lose MMR, and sure, maybe give the one who was a little bit lower MMR a little bit of a boost after going 3 and 3. But yeah, I think there just needs to be some sort of hard rule that you don't lose MMR when you go 3 and 3 in solo shuffle. Yeah, I've just been yapping too long, so let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the arenas.